Livestock. The parallel lifeline of any country. A natural food source in various ways. Livestock contributes significantly to the livelihood of rural poor in our country and has enormous potential to reduce poverty. There is a predicted increase in demand for animal food products in India by 2020. India has the largest number of dairy animal population in the world. It has 200 million cattle and 100 million buffaloes. This industry is a big source of income to a lot of households in the country. A lot of families in the villages of India are in the business of milk and cattle farming since ages. Even now, in the cities of India, the early morning milkman who distributes cow milk to houses is a common sight. At 4:30 a.m., the New Delhi train station is filled with milkmen from nearby towns who arrive carrying cans of milk that they deliver to neighborhoods across the capital. Milk has always been a major part of Indian tradition. In fact, cow is considered as mother by most of the Indians. Milk and its products are used also for religious purposes because it is believed to have purifying qualities. Sweets made from milk or ghee are used as offerings to gods. It is included in rituals from an infant's first food to the last rituals after death. If you're in India, you cannot escape calorie-filled sweets made with milk. Another thing common across this large and diverse country is the morning cup of milky tea. Tiny tea stalls start their businesses early, with migrant laborers normally the first customers. India has a unique pattern of production, processing, and marketing or consumption of milk, incomparable to any large milk-producing country. India is the world's largest milk producer and consumer of dairy products, consuming almost 100% of its own milk production. The Indian dairy sector is different from other dairy-producing countries, as emphasis is placed on both cattle and buffalo milk. Cattle rearing has been a traditional livelihood in India and is closely linked to agricultural economy. India, with its 200 million cattle heads, has 14.5% of the world's cattle population. Of this, 83% are indigenous. Indigenous cattle in India are robust and resilient and are particularly suited to the climate and environment of their respective breeding tracts. They are endowed with qualities of heat tolerance, resistance to diseases, and the ability to thrive under extreme climatic stress and less than optimal nutrition. In spite of India having largest repertoire of livestock, about 30% of world's livestock population, per animal productivity is very low. Low productivity directly affects the economic profitability and sustainability of livestock farmers. Currently, livestock sector contributes only 4.1% of GDP. On the other hand, milk demand in India is going to double by 2050. To meet the projected milk demand and to increase farmers' income towards contributing more to GDP, there is an urgent need to improve indigenous livestock. But there are a lot of practical dairy farming challenges in India.
First, to find out which are the pure breed of our indigenous cattle. Why it is necessary? Because this country has got 41 breeds in various agricultural climatic conditions. Some will survive in extreme heat, some will survive in extreme drought conditions, some will survive in hilly areas where water doesn't stop, some will survive in very rainy areas, some will survive in very cold. So there are various conditions where these cattle were for million years stabilized. They are the one which survived. There were others who were relatively weaker and died.
There is an excessive number of unproductive animals which compete with productive dairy animals in the utilization of available feeds and fodder. Populations of native breeds are declining alarmingly, majorly due to artificial insemination of non-discrepant domestic animals. As a result of indiscriminate crossbreeding, appeared to be an easy way to produce animals with higher productivity. Starting in the 1960s, exotic germplasm was used to increase the productivity of native animals. But this came with a cost. It resulted in loss of local breeds. Moreover, since the imported breeds were not adapted to their new environment, their performance over generations declined.
The crossbreds do not give us that many number of progeny or babies for common people as the native breeds would give. So if a farmer with a native breed of let us say any breed gives you 7, 8 or 9 babies in lifetime, the crossbred will give you 4. Then the kind of infertility creeps in. One of the major requirement of this country is definitely to conserve indigenous breeds. It's coming up, as I said. This gene pool is very, very precious, and for million years this species survived. We are losing on pure breeds of the animals because of the crossbreeding.
Since Indian cattle are well adapted to a hot climate and resistant to many diseases, they have been majorly used for crossbreeding in other countries. But in India, the number of purebred cattle has declined drastically. In fact, purebred animals are now only found in areas inaccessible by vehicles. The loss of genetic diversity in India's cattle is an example of a potentially dangerous global trend. There is an urgent need to reverse this trend. There are a lot of practices and methods used conventionally to improve cattle. Mainly, a selection is done based on phenotype of the animals. Best performing animals are selected in conventional selection program.
Whenever a bull is born, you have to really follow up whether that bull is good or bad. So for that, what you really need is traditional breeding program where the semen will be distributed to various villages, and they will keep a record of that. And when the babies are born, basically you have to follow the calf. If it is a female, then it has to become of reproducible age, then it will get pregnant and reproduce, and then it will start giving milk, and then that record has to be kept. So hundreds of such records are to be collected. It's not only one bull. You have to keep on doing this business with several bulls, because you don't know which one of them will be in future called as elite. So then keeping such records, you have to evaluate the genetic value of the bull, and maybe out of the hundreds bull you have tested, you will find one or two bulls whose semen seem to be good enough to repeatedly produce progeny which are having high milk yield.
With the advent of artificial insemination, many programs for selection were started for cattle scientifically. These selection programs were based on the performance of progenies of a bull called progeny testing.
India Science Channel was launched in the year 2019 by the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. The internet-based dedicated science web channel is being implemented and managed by Vigyan Prasar, committed towards science communication. The channel features science documentaries, discussions on current topics, interviews, and different programs covering the entire landscape of science and technology to make science popular among the masses.
India Science is a flagship project of Vigyan Prasar. And over a year and a half, we have produced more than 1,200 videos of different sizes, lengths, and are from different genre and for different domains for the people of the country. We've taken, we have spoken, we've gotten, we've dived deep into the realms of different domains of science and technology, and we have gotten news, stories, films, videos, in almost every format that you can think of. OTT, for that matter, is a great platform that helps anybody to look for any news, any item, any video, any documentary at any point in time. All you need to do is to subscribe a channel for it.
One can also download India Science mobile app from Google Play Store or Apple Store to view this channel.
Progeny testing is a test of the value for selective breeding of an individual's genotype by looking at the progeny produced by different matings. A progeny test is performed by mating the male with a number of females to produce many progenies in different environments and over a long time period involving different seasons to nullify the impact of season, management, environment in breeding value estimation. The average performance of the offspring is then found, giving a measure of the male's respective value to the breeder. Bulls are evaluated on the basis of their daughter's performance.
If you talk about a bull contributes to more than half a herd, because bull is responsible for most of the progeny in the herd. So people started progeny testing, where bull is selected on the basis of the progeny it produced, and in that process what happens is the generation interval is quite high, because it takes around 6 to 8 years for a progeny, for a bull to be producing some milk and then having the records of its own.
In a typical breeding design for a progeny testing program, a certain number of young bulls produced by using the very best cows and bulls are put under test. Adequate number of test doses of bulls put to test are distributed in selected herds or villages. First, lactation record of daughters per bull in as many villages as possible are made available for estimating breeding values of bulls with a very high reliability. The very best 1 to 10% of progeny tested bulls and the very best 1 to 10% of recorded cows are used for producing the next generation of young bulls. The young bulls are again put to test and the cycle is repeated. The top 10 to 15% of the progeny tested bulls are used for producing replacement heifers. Bull selected through progeny testing was introduced in breeding program, especially for milk improvement. Though progeny testing has been a reliable conventional method for selection till recently, it still has a lot of drawbacks. One of the major drawbacks is that it requires huge amount of time. At least 6 to 8 years are required for selection of a single bull. There are other drawbacks which actually impact the program in Indian scenario. Progeny testing requires phenotype data of hundreds of progenies to calculate the breeding value. Therefore, progeny testing method of selection requires huge amount of money and resources, and collecting phenotype data from field itself is a daunting task. Only few top-performing bulls will be selected and others will be rejected in the process. Thus, only few progeny-tested proven bulls are selected for breeding programs across India. However, India requires a large number of bulls. In rural India, still a large fraction of farmers do not accept or did not have the reach for artificial insemination, which is mandatory for a progeny testing program to be successful.
If you are talking about the same bull having several records in the same herd, it takes around 6 to 8 years, and you'll never know. After all this entire exercise, that bull may still be useful or still may not be useful. So here you are running at a loss of maintaining the bull as well as the progeny that the bull is giving, and you are also losing substantial amount of time. And in animal breeding, generally what happens is, like, we calculate genetic gain per year. And when you are calculating genetic gain per year, the denominator which you have is almost around 6 to 8 years. And that genetic gain is quite less in the case of progeny testing. I don't say progeny testing was not successful. Progeny testing is successful. But take the case of selecting the animal when it is born and losing that denominator now, and having only 1 year as a denominator. You can have a genetic gain which is unimaginable.
Genetic improvement of livestock through traditional selection for increasing livestock productivity has major limitations. To overcome this, genomic selection has played a crucial role in livestock industry globally. Genomic selection using scientific methods will lead to high-yielding, resilient animals. Moreover, through scientific selective breeding, it will be possible to form disease-resistant indigenous livestock. Cattle genomics is needed to improve the trait, especially milk production of indigenous cattle. It will overcome the limitation of progeny testing, as genomic-enabled selection will significantly decrease the time required for selection of bulls. Genomics will also help in selecting other traits like disease resistance, agroclimatic adaptations, and other genetic diseases where phenotype is either not observed or at least not in the early stage of life. Thus, huge amount of loss of the livestock sector can be saved. Considering all this, the Ministry of Science and Technology has taken a lot of initiatives. NIAB, National Institute of Animal Biotechnology, an autonomous institute of the Ministry of Science and Technology's Department of Biotechnology, is putting in a lot of efforts and has taken initiatives to work on this subject. Its aim is to harness novel and emerging biotechnologies and take up research in the cutting-edge areas for improving animal health and productivity. Let's first understand what is genomics and its study. Every living organism has DNA, a code that directs its biological functions and influences how it grows and interacts with the environment. Genomics is the science of understanding, interpreting, and harnessing this DNA code to create real-world solutions. It is an interdisciplinary field of science focusing on the structure, function, evolution, mapping, and editing of genomes. A genome is an organism's complete set of DNA, including all of its genes. In contrast to genetics, which refers to the study of individual genes and their roles in inheritance, genomics aims at the collective characterization and quantification of genes, which direct the production of proteins with the assistance of enzymes and messenger molecules.
India Science Channel was launched in the year 2019 by the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. The internet-based dedicated science web channel is being implemented and managed by Vigyan Prasar, committed towards science communication. The channel features science documentaries, discussions on current topics, interviews, and different programs covering the entire landscape of science and technology to make science popular among the masses.
India Science is a flagship project of Vigyan Prasar, and over an year and a half we have produced more than 1,200 videos of different sizes, lengths, and are from different genre and for different domains for the people of the country. We've taken, we have spoken, we've gotten, we've dived deep into the realms of different domains of science and technology, and we have gotten news, stories, films, videos in almost every format that you can think of. OTT, for that matter, is a great platform that helps anybody to look for any news, any item, any video, any documentary at any point in time. All you need to do is to subscribe a channel for it.
One can also download India Science mobile app from Google Play Store or Apple Store to view this channel.
Cattle genomics will characterize the indigenous livestock at genome level, which will provide various tools and platforms to improve the cattle. Cattle genomics will provide a tool to identify true breed and differentiate the individual from mixed population for any breed development or breed conservation program. It will provide huge amount of markers and SNP chips for genomic selection program, which can be deployed to improve any trait of cattle. In case of cattle, prominent trait is milk production, which will be improved due to higher genetic gain per unit time by deploying genomic-enabled selection program.
We can use take the help of the genomic information to find out that at birth, if I take a blood sample, take some DNA material, that which bull has got all those required SNPs, which by this whole study we will calculate to be really yielding or resulting into a sperm, which when fertilizes egg of a cow, it produces a very good progeny which gives more milk. So in childhood, instead of going through that 6 or 8 years of progeny tested bull in traditional method, if you now even at birth pick up 100 to 100 bulls and do this testing and say, okay, these 2 bulls are guaranteed to give you semen or sperm which will produce females which will have very high milk values. So you can select them now.
NIAB has divided the program on cattle genomics into 2 phases. The first phase will characterize the whole genome of indigenous cattle breeds. To achieve this, genome of different breeds will undergo sequencing and a high-resolution SNP or single nucleotide polymorphism chip will be developed. Other breeds will be genotyped with the same SNP chip. Genomic selection using SNPs is a powerful new tool for genetic selection. In cattle, SNP profiles for individual animals are generated using a small chip, that is, diagnostic, for up to 50,000 SNPs spaced throughout the genome. It is a small sliver of glass, about the size of a fingernail, into which are etched a very large number of very small pits. Each of these hold a tiny amount of DNA, which has been extracted from the tissue sample of the cattle and can be read by a DNA sequence reading machine. Reading these chips gives information about the different traits of the animal, and if milk is what the criteria is, then SNP chips of cattle with more milk producing capabilities can be used to identify more of such cattle.
If we come up with a chip that can identify, okay, this contains around 60% of gyr and 40% of something else, right? Then we can tell the farmer, yes, you have a breed, but this is not a purebred animal.
It's an association of bunch of SNPs which eventually convert into a phenotype. That phenotype can be more milk yield, or can be a resistance to a particular disease, or it can be more ability to digest food efficiently.
The second phase will use resources developed at phase 1 to deploy the genomic-enabled selection, in which a large population of cattle will be phenotyped and genotyped, and a mathematical mode will be established to calculate the genomic breeding value. Only superior bulls at early stage will be selected to increase the milk yield. This process is generally iterative and continuous, with cause continuous increase of milk yield in the test population.
We believe that then we can, by that formula, we can find a bull who will have such SNPs which, at least from father's part, guarantee that baby will be high milk yielding baby.
With the success of such great programs by the Ministry of Science and Technology, India will surely step into a bright future for cattle. Dairy industry will surely become highly sustainable and profitable. And this in turn will increase the farmer's income, and our country will have more happy faces throughout. Even the estimated growth in the demand of milk in future will be met easily. Hopefully, after cattle, small animals such as goat and sheep will also get included in improvement program through livestock genomics. And India will be a healthier country with healthy livestock.